Greetings, Guardians, my name is Bife here. So today's lore has been around since the start of the season, but there were some things that stopped me from covering this. For one, I got sick just a few days into the release of the dungeon, so this video got pushed back a while. For another, it's perhaps right that I cover all this now, knowing the way the season's story is going to unfurl. Today we're going to be talking about the lore of the Unforeseen Consequences ship, and why it seems to tease an answer to one of the core questions of the final shape. How exactly does Cayde 6 return? But first, a word from our sponsors at HelloFresh. If you're just starting a journey to newfound wellness this year, then look no further than America's #1 meal kit. With over 45 dinner options and even more market items than ever before in each box, there are a ton of ways to keep healthy food from becoming boring. These recipes also include calorie-smart and protein-smart options, so if you're looking to get in better shape, whether that's losing weight or building muscle, you've got the support you need right in the food that you can pick right there. HelloFresh meals are quick, convenient, and get delivered right to your door with pre-portioned ingredients, so you can spend less time meal planning and more time actually cooking. And personally, that portion control aspect of it is something that I find great because, look at a grocery shelf. It's really hard to know exactly how much you need. Having the exact amount you need in each meal helps to cut back on waste, and it saves you money too. Best of all, breakfast is on HelloFresh too. While you have a HelloFresh subscription active, you get a free breakfast item with every box. So click the link in the description or use my code POGBIFE1FREE and get free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Anyway, back to the lore. So for those missing the context, a quick recap. Riven revealed to us that Savathun's wish to follow the witness was only good to send a single person into the Traveler's Pale Heart. Crow, in response, has devised a plan, including himself and Mara and Osiris, which means that he'll be heading into the portal alone first. The other Guardians will then leverage the Veil and his cosmic connection with his sister Mara to create a safe passage for everyone else to follow in afterwards. It's a risky plan for sure, but that's never stopped Crow or Osiris, or Mara for that matter. All of them have either willingly or unwillingly put their lives on the line in moments that were critical to our success against the forces of the darkness. Mara did so against Oryx during the Taken War, allowing herself to die at his hands so that we might have a chance to destroy him. Osiris did so very unwillingly, by gleaning knowledge from Savathun's thoughts when he was temporarily possessed by her. And now it appears that it's Crow's turn, as he heads through the portal into the unknown and gives us a potential anchor from which we can navigate a pathway to the witness. To say that Mara found it difficult to let her brother go a second time would be an understatement. After all, she already lost him once, and that's no thanks to us and Petra. However, both her and Crow have done their fair share of growing and changing since that last death. You can see this in Mara most directly during the conversation she had with Crow and Osiris in the last week of Seasonal Story. But you can also see it in her reflections on a place of some importance for the lore today, her distant throne out beyond the Dreaming City. During this week's story, we were tasked with clearing the Oracle engine and preparing it so that we might intercept the last of Riven's eggs. During the process of this operation, we actually re-entered Mara's throne, and here we could listen to Mara reflecting on her own journey as a person across the last 5 years or so.
How long has it been since I last set foot within these halls? An isolated throne, overlooking an endless cosmic expanse. A symbol of who I once was. Distant, detached, inscrutable. But as my brother has changed, so too have I. No longer do I sow solitude and reap remorse. I choose, instead, to trust. I have no further need for this chamber. But with the Oracle engine restored, we can reach the heart of the confluence and the final egg. Return for now. When the time comes, we will complete our bargain and trust Riven to keep her word.
As Mara chooses to put her trust in Crow, she is allowing him to walk his own path without restraint and is trusting that he will return in the end. This throne, in a strange way, is a little representative of the journey that Mara and Crow have been on as siblings. Mara vacated it to fight a battle on our behalf, knowing that she would need to abandon her distant ways in order to do so. In that process, her absence would eventually spur Petra's efforts to return her to the Dreaming City, and when she did return in the Season of the Lost, she saw her brother once again, albeit returned as Crow instead of Uldren, changed by the light. Crow has also grown as a person. His choice to take the mantle and burden of risk upon himself is reflected by the man he once was and the choices he's made since then. He also had an interaction or two with Mara's throne. At first, he guarded it as her right hand. Then, in Forsaken, he burnt it to the ground in his blazing path of corruption, the same corruption that had caused him to willingly claim the life of Cayde Six. But with his rebirth in the light, Crow would learn of the man he used to be, slowly but surely. First, it was through pain inflicted upon him by everyone, from Guardians to the Scorn. Then he would learn the full measure of the truth, thanks to Savathûn. He's faced his demons and been able to make peace with them. Both Mara and Crow reflect on this growth in a bit of lore this season, or at least, at first it appears to be Mara and Crow. You'll see what I mean in a moment. And this is all relevant because not only does it involve a degree of trust between the siblings for this conversation to even take place, but it once again takes place in the Queen's throne. There are some intriguing implications as far as the future is concerned, and it might go some way to explaining why Cayde Six will return in the final shape. It could alternatively be a bit of a red herring, but who knows. The lore of the Unforeseen Consequences ship reads as follows. He remembers his sister's throne differently. An amalgam of Elixni Flotsam built from the spoils of war, its great weight suspended from the rafters. A throne Uldren set ablaze in the wake of losing her, his first step down a forsaken path. Crow lays a hand on the throne before him. It is empty and ponderous, silhouetted by distant nebulae and cosmic dust. It feels smooth, too smooth. It was here that I first heard the news of your death, calls a familiar voice behind him. He turns to see his sister striding down the hall. Mara takes her place beside him and gazes out into the far reaches of space. Did you mourn for me? Crow asks. I did, his sister replies. She is silent for a moment. And I regret what I did to you. The manipulation, the subtle coercion, none of it went the way I intended. Crow follows her gaze out into the endless void. I know what that's like. Remorse and recriminations, Mara says absently. She turns her eyes toward him. If you could go back, alter the course of your history, what would you change? He can't help but laugh. Where to begin? Crow muses with a smirk. It fades soon enough. Cayde, he whispers. Mara raises an eyebrow. Oh? Before then, I could have taken a different road. But once I pulled that trigger... He shakes his head. Everything else I can set right, but not that. I just wish I could tell him I shouldn't have done it. I see, Mara murmurs. Her eyes shine in the starlight. Crow sighs and rolls his shoulders back. I should get going. Vanguard's waiting on my report. We all have our obligations, I suppose. Don't I know it? Crow nods as he heads down the hall. He pauses at the portal to the Dreaming City and glances back at Mara. Ringed by the distant nebulae, she shimmers like a mirage on desert sands. And then, Crow is gone. See you soon, Mara's voice echoes across the empty chamber as the illusion fades. Oh, brother mine. Those of you who are in tune with the lore will know exactly what's going on here. This wasn't Mara at all. This was almost certainly Riven, if not another Ahamkara. And she probably just enacted some wish magic because there are telltale signs of it all over this lore reading. The obvious clue that this was Riven is at the very end, the text reading "The illusion fades" and the use of "Oh brother mine." Those are pretty telltale signs that this is not Mara Sov and that this is indeed an Ahamkara of some kind. It's also worth noting that there are other individuals that use that specific phrase, such as Savathun and the Worm Gods, but I think we can narrow this down to an Ahamkara at least, based on the signs of wish magic being used earlier in the lore reading. What signs of wish magic being used are there, though? Well, the really troubling stuff starts with the telltale signs that you would usually see whenever wish magic is enacted. First of all, you have to consider that most people who enact wish magic will hear whispering. Now, after Crow has mentioned Cayde, the mention of Mara saying "I see" is one that is given the text of "Mara murmured, I see." The word "said" isn't used, it's murmured, and whispering and murmuring aren't too far from each other. But that alone isn't exactly enough to call wish magic. No, the real hint that wish magic is being used here is in Mara's eyes. When Ahamkara use wish magic, their eyes start to glow or flash with wish magic. And you can see that as the illusion of Mara says, "I see," it's followed quickly by the line, "Mara's eyes shine in the starlight." And if you needed even more evidence, note that the Ahamkara tend to capitalize on the specific wording of one's desires, and Crow literally said the words, "I just wish I could tell him I shouldn't have done it." The use of the word wish is quite enough here. Now, all of this is pretty compelling if you put it together, and it does give us a concrete theory as to how Cayde was resurrected. But there is one potential red herring in all of this, and I've mentioned it a little bit before, and it's simply that Riven has told us directly that she will only grant us one more wish, and then she will be no more. That in itself is a statement that seems to run contrary to what's just happened in the lore, maybe implying that it was a different Ahamkara. But then again, let's be completely honest. Do we really trust Riven completely? She is not like Taranis. She is much closer to the attitude of a typical Ahamkara. She's very much willing to manipulate and lie and be selfish if it suits her goals. Would it be so hard to believe that she held back just enough power to allow herself to grant 2 wishes instead of 1? I don't think so. I think it's entirely possible. This goes without mentioning the fact that she's been taunting us with the prospect of granting wishes this whole season, and has caused us to be exceedingly careful with our choice of words throughout. But there is of course that one outside possibility. If the Queensfoil censor is to be believed, Riven might have not been the last Ahamkara. According to the Queensfoil censor, there are apparently maybe 7 Ahamkara still remaining out there in the system or beyond. 7 survivors of the Great Hunt whose guardians that were meant to hunt them down actually died. Then again, who knows? That's something which is not confirmed, even though I believe that Bungie doesn't put these things in the lore without good reason. So, yeah, maybe this sudden illusion came from a different Ahamkara and that's why the wishes can be granted. But then again, that's an even more wild and out there theory, so for the moment I'm going to bench that as nothing more than musings and speculation. Regardless, we seem to now have a pretty solid theory about how Cayde might be resurrected in the final shape. I suppose only time will tell if the glow behind his eyes is wish magic or something else. But if he was risen by a wish dragon, one can only imagine the unforeseen consequences of this moment. But that's all from me for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, go ahead and hit subscribe and the bell next to subscribe. Feed the algorithm as is per typical, it's only polite. And, of course, know that your viewership, as always, is quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Bife. Parodacia Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.